The morning sun streamed through the tall windows of Buckingham Palace as King Charles sat in his private study, carefully reviewing a stack of official documents. His reading glasses perched on his nose, he paused at one particular paper that had been prepared by his private secretary. The document outlined plans for a special ceremony to honor Princess Catherine's outstanding service to the crown and her dedication to various charitable causes. Charles had been thinking about this decision for weeks. Catherine had proven herself to be one of the most valuable members of the royal family since joining through her marriage to Prince William. Her grace under pressure, her natural ability to connect with people from all walks of life, and her unwavering commitment to her royal duties had not gone unnoticed by the king. The Princess of Wales had handled numerous challenging situations with remarkable poise. During the recent economic difficulties facing the country, she had visited food banks, homeless shelters, and struggling communities, bringing hope and attention to important social issues. Her work with children's mental health charities had also gained international recognition, making her a respected figure far beyond the borders of Britain. What impressed Charles most was how Catherine had embraced her role without ever seeking the spotlight for personal gain. Unlike some members of the royal family who had caused controversy in recent years, she had remained focused on service above self. Her ability to balance being a devoted mother to her 3 children while fulfilling her royal obligations was something Charles deeply admired. The king remembered how nervous Catherine had seemed during her early days as a royal. The young woman who had once been just Kate Middleton, a commoner from Berkshire, had transformed into one of the most beloved members of the monarchy. She had learned royal protocol quickly, mastered the art of public speaking, and developed a genuine passion for the causes she supported. Charles also appreciated how Catherine had helped modernize the royal family's image. She had shown that royalty could be both dignified and relatable. When she was photographed doing her own grocery shopping or taking her children to school, it helped bridge the gap between the monarchy and ordinary citizens. This was exactly the kind of approach Charles wanted for the future of the crown. The proposed honor would recognize Catherine's exceptional service with a special title and increased responsibilities within the royal hierarchy. It would also come with additional resources to expand her charitable work and give her a more prominent role in state functions. Charles believed this recognition was not only well-deserved, but also strategically important for the monarchy's future. As he signed the document approving the plans, Charles felt confident in his decision. He had discussed the matter with his senior advisors, who had unanimously supported the proposal. The public loved Catherine, and this honor would likely be met with widespread approval from both the British people and the international community. However, the king was also aware that not everyone in the royal household would be pleased with his decision. Palace politics were complex, and any change in status or recognition could create ripples of tension among family members. He had learned from years of experience that even well-intentioned decisions could sometimes lead to unexpected complications. Charles set the signed document aside and looked out at the palace gardens, where gardeners were tending to the autumn flowers. He thought about his late mother, Queen Elizabeth II, and how she had always emphasized the importance of recognizing merit and service within the royal family. He felt certain she would have approved of his decision to honor Catherine. The king's thoughts were interrupted by a gentle knock on his study door. His private secretary entered to collect the signed documents and begin the process of implementing the new arrangements. As the man left with the papers, Charles couldn't help but smile slightly, imagining Catherine's surprised reaction when she learned about the honor that awaited her. Queen Camilla was enjoying her afternoon tea in the elegant drawing room of Clarence House when her lady-in-waiting approached with a concerned expression. The woman carried a sealed envelope bearing the official royal crest, which indicated it contained important information from the king's office. Camilla set down her delicate china teacup and accepted the envelope, noting the urgency in her aide's manner. As she opened the letter and began reading, Camilla's face gradually changed from mild curiosity to shock, and then to something much darker. The document outlined King Charles's decision to bestow a significant honor upon Princess Catherine, along with an expanded role that would elevate her status within the royal hierarchy. The honor would be announced publicly within the week, and preparations were already underway. Camilla read the letter twice, her hands trembling slightly with each word. She had not been consulted about this decision, despite being the Queen Consort and Charles's wife. The realization that her husband had made such an important choice without seeking her input felt like a personal betrayal. She had always prided herself on being Charles's trusted advisor and confidant, especially on matters concerning the royal family. The Queen Consort's mind raced as she considered the implications of this announcement. Catherine was already extremely popular with the public, often overshadowing other members of the royal family in media coverage. This new honor would only increase her prominence and influence, potentially making her the most celebrated royal after the king himself. Camilla worried about how this might affect her own position and relevance within the monarchy. For years, Camilla had worked tirelessly to overcome the negative publicity that had followed her relationship with Charles and their eventual marriage. She had gradually won over many critics through her dedicated charitable work and her support of various causes, particularly those related to literacy, domestic violence, and animal welfare. The journey from being seen as the other woman in Charles and Diana's marriage to becoming a respected queen consort had been long and difficult. Now, Camilla felt that all her hard work and progress might be undermined by Charles's decision to elevate Catherine's status so dramatically. She had always maintained a cordial relationship with her daughter-in-law, but there had been subtle tensions beneath the surface. Catherine's natural elegance and effortless popularity sometimes made Camilla feel overshadowed. Despite her senior position in the royal hierarchy, the queen consort rose from her chair and began pacing around the room, her mind filled with frustration and disappointment. She thought about all the times she had supported Charles through difficult decisions, stood by him during controversies, and worked to strengthen his reign. To be excluded from such a significant choice felt like a rejection of her role as his partner and advisor. Camilla also worried about the message this decision would send to other members of the royal family. If Catherine could be elevated so dramatically without consultation, what did that mean for the established order and protocols that had guided the monarchy for generations? She feared it might create jealousy and resentment among other royals who had been serving faithfully for years without receiving similar recognition. The practical implications of Catherine's new status also concerned Camilla. The Princess of Wales would likely receive additional resources, staff, and responsibilities that might overlap with the Queen Consort's own areas of influence. There could be conflicts over scheduling, public appearances, and even charitable patronages. Camilla had worked hard to establish her own network of causes and organizations, and she didn't want to see her influence diminished. As the afternoon wore on, Camilla's initial shock transformed into a cold, determined anger. She felt that Charles had disrespected her position in their marriage by making this decision unilaterally. The Queen Consort began to consider her options for responding to this situation. She could confront Charles directly, seek support from other family members, or find more subtle ways to express her displeasure. The sound of footsteps in the hallway interrupted her thoughts. Camilla quickly composed herself, folding the letter and placing it in a drawer. She would need time to process this news and plan her response carefully. One thing was certain: she would not allow this decision to diminish her own standing within the royal family without a fight. Princess Catherine was in the middle of reviewing her schedule for the upcoming week when her private secretary knocked on the door of her office at Kensington Palace. The woman entered with an expression that Catherine had learned to recognize as significant news. Catherine set aside her papers and invited her secretary to sit down, sensing that whatever message she was about to receive would be important. The secretary explained that King Charles had requested a private meeting with Catherine that afternoon at Buckingham Palace. The meeting was described as urgent and confidential, with no other details provided. Catherine felt a flutter of nervousness in her stomach, wondering what could require such immediate attention. Her mind quickly reviewed recent events, trying to think of anything that might have prompted this sudden summons. As Catherine prepared for the meeting, she reflected on her relationship with her father-in-law. Since becoming king, Charles had been supportive and encouraging of her work, often praising her contributions to the royal family in private conversations. However, she had noticed that he seemed to be planning something in recent weeks, with several hushed conversations between him and his senior staff that stopped whenever she entered the room. The drive to Buckingham Palace gave Catherine time to think about her journey as a member of the royal family. When she first married Prince William, she had been overwhelmed by the responsibilities and expectations that came with her new role. The constant media attention, the formal protocols, and the weight of representing the monarchy had initially felt crushing. She remembered feeling like she was always one mistake away from embarrassing herself or the family. Over the years, Catherine had grown into her role with determination and grace. She had studied the history of the monarchy, learned from the Queen's example, and developed her own approach to royal duties. Her background as a commoner had actually become one of her greatest strengths, allowing her to connect with ordinary people in ways that traditional royals sometimes struggled to achieve. Catherine's charitable work had become deeply meaningful. To her, particularly her focus on early childhood development and mental health awareness, she had invested countless hours in understanding these issues, visiting research centers, meeting with experts, and learning from families affected by various challenges. Her genuine passion for these causes had earned her respect from professionals in these fields and had led to real changes in policy and public awareness. When Catherine arrived at Buckingham Palace, she was escorted to the king's private study, where Charles was waiting with a warm smile. He invited her to sit in one of the comfortable chairs near the fireplace, and his demeanor immediately put her at ease. Charles began by expressing his appreciation for her dedication and the positive impact she had made on the royal family's reputation and effectiveness. The king then explained his decision to bestow a special honor upon Catherine, recognizing her exceptional service and expanding her role within the monarchy. As he described the details of the new position and its responsibilities, Catherine felt a mix of surprise, gratitude, and slight apprehension. The honor was far more significant than anything she had expected, and it would fundamentally change her position within the royal hierarchy. Charles emphasized that this decision was based purely on merit and performance. He explained how Catherine's approach to royal duties had impressed him, and how her ability to modernize the monarchy while respecting its traditions was exactly what the institution needed for the future. He also mentioned that the public's affection for her made her an invaluable asset to the crown. Catherine listened carefully to every detail, asking thoughtful questions about the implications of her new role and how it would affect her existing commitments. She was particularly concerned about maintaining her focus on her children and ensuring that her family life wouldn't suffer from the increased responsibilities. Charles assured her that the royal household would provide whatever support she needed to balance her various obligations. As the meeting concluded, Catherine felt both honored and slightly overwhelmed by the trust Charles was placing in her. She understood that this recognition would bring new challenges and increased scrutiny, but she also felt ready to embrace the opportunities it would provide to make an even greater impact through her work. The king asked Catherine to keep the news confidential until the official announcement, which would be made within a few days. As she left Buckingham Palace, Catherine couldn't help but feel excited about sharing this news with William and beginning this new chapter in her royal journey. Word of King Charles's decision to honor Princess Catherine began to spread through the palace staff and inner circles of the royal household, despite efforts to keep the announcement confidential. Royal protocol required that certain senior members of the family and key staff be informed in advance, and it was inevitable that whispers would begin circulating among those in the know. Prince William was among the first family members to learn about his father's decision when Charles called him for a private conversation. William felt an immediate surge of pride for his wife, knowing how hard she had worked to earn such recognition. He had watched Catherine transform from a nervous young woman thrust into the royal spotlight into a confident and capable member of the family who had earned the respect and admiration of people around the world. William also understood the political implications of his father's decision. Within the family dynamics, he was aware that some members of the royal family had occasionally expressed subtle jealousy about Catherine's popularity with the public and media. This new honor would likely intensify those feelings, but William believed his wife deserved every bit of recognition she was receiving. The news reached other members of the royal family through various channels over the following days. Some, like Princess Anne, responded with genuine approval, having long admired Catherine's work ethic and professional approach to royal duties. Anne had particularly appreciated Catherine's serious commitment to her charitable causes and her refusal to treat royal appearances as mere photo opportunities. However, not everyone in the family shared this enthusiasm. Some of the younger royals who had been hoping for increased roles and recognition themselves felt disappointed that Catherine was receiving such preferential treatment. They questioned whether her relatively short time in the royal family justified such a significant honor, especially when other family members had been serving loyally for much longer periods. The palace staff found themselves in an awkward position as news of the upcoming announcement spread. Those who worked closely with Queen Camilla could sense her displeasure, even though she was trying to maintain a composed exterior. Her staff noticed that she had become more demanding and critical in recent days, finding fault with arrangements and decisions that she would normally have accepted without comment. Meanwhile, Catherine's team was quietly working to prepare for the additional responsibilities that would come with her new role. They were coordinating with various departments to ensure a smooth transition, and were already fielding increased interest from charitable organizations hoping to secure the Princess of Wales's patronage. The excitement among her staff was palpable, as they understood that this recognition would allow them to expand their impact significantly. The media began to pick up hints that something significant was brewing within the royal family. Royal correspondents noticed unusual activity at the palaces, with more meetings than usual between senior staff members and increased security preparations that typically preceded major announcements. Speculation began to appear in newspapers and online, with various theories about what news might be forthcoming. Queen Camilla found herself increasingly isolated as she watched the preparations unfold around her. She had attempted to discuss the matter with Charles on several occasions, but he had been diplomatically evasive, simply stating that all would be revealed soon. His refusal to engage in detailed discussion about his decision only deepened her sense of betrayal and exclusion. The Queen Consort began reaching out to her own allies within the royal household and among the extended family, hoping to find support for her position. However, she discovered that most people were either genuinely supportive of Catherine's recognition or were reluctant to openly oppose the king's decision. This left Camilla feeling even more isolated and frustrated. As the days passed, the tension within the royal family became increasingly difficult to hide. Staff members noticed the strained interactions between family members and the careful way conversation stopped when certain people entered rooms. The usual easy camaraderie among the family seemed to have been replaced by an undercurrent of tension and unspoken conflicts. Palace security also became more vigilant as they prepared for the public announcement, knowing that any major royal news would likely generate significant media attention and public interest. They began making preparations for increased crowds and media presence, while also ensuring that family members would be protected from any potential negative reactions or controversies that might arise from the announcement. The tension that had been building within the royal household finally erupted during what was supposed to be a routine family dinner at Windsor Castle. King Charles had arranged the gathering as an opportunity to inform the entire immediate family about Catherine's upcoming honor before the public announcement. What he hadn't anticipated was the explosive confrontation that would unfold when Queen Camilla could no longer contain her frustration. The evening began pleasantly enough, with family members gathering in the castle's private dining room for what they assumed would be a typical family meal. Catherine and William arrived with their children, who were excited to spend time with their grandfather and the extended family. The atmosphere was warm and relaxed as everyone took their seats around the elegant dining table. Charles waited until after the main course had been served before standing to address the family. He began by speaking about the importance of recognizing service and dedication within the royal family, and how certain members had gone above and beyond in their commitment to the crown. As he started to detail Catherine's achievements and the honor she would receive, Camilla's expression grew increasingly dark. When Charles finally announced the specific nature of Catherine's new role and the ceremony that would mark the occasion, Camilla could no longer remain silent. She set down her wineglass with enough force to make it ring against the table, causing everyone to turn in her direction. The Queen Consort's face was flushed with anger as she demanded to know why she had been excluded from such an important decision. The confrontation that followed was unlike anything the family had witnessed in years. Camilla accused Charles of undermining her position as Queen Consort and making decisions that affected the entire family without proper consultation. Her voice rose as she expressed her feeling that Catherine was being given preferential treatment that was unfair to other family members, who had served faithfully for much longer. Charles tried to maintain his composure, but it was clear that he was taken aback by the intensity of Camilla's reaction. He attempted to explain his reasoning, emphasizing that the decision was based purely on merit and performance. However, his calm responses only seemed to fuel Camilla's anger further, as she interpreted his diplomatic tone as dismissive of her concerns. The other family members found themselves in an extremely uncomfortable position, witnessing a very public breakdown in the relationship between the king and queen consort. William instinctively moved to support his wife, while also trying to defuse the situation. Catherine herself remained remarkably composed despite being at the center of the conflict, though her discomfort was evident. Princess Anne attempted to intervene with her characteristic directness, pointing out that family disagreements should not overshadow recognition of good work. However, her comments were met with a sharp retort from Camilla, who felt that even Anne was taking sides against her. The situation continued to escalate, as years of suppressed tensions and competing interests came to the surface. The children present during this confrontation became increasingly distressed as the adults around them raised their voices and exchanged harsh words. Catherine and William made the decision to remove their children from the situation, excusing themselves from the dinner and taking the young ones to another part of the castle where they could be shielded from the ongoing conflict. After the children were removed, Camilla's anger reached its peak as she accused Charles of favoring his daughter-in-law over his own wife. She questioned whether his decision was influenced by media popularity rather than genuine merit, and suggested that he was setting a dangerous precedent that could undermine the traditional structure of the royal hierarchy. Charles finally lost his diplomatic composure and responded with equal intensity, defending his decision and asserting his right as king to make choices he believed were in the best interest of the monarchy. He reminded Camilla that his responsibility was to the crown and the British people, not to managing family jealousies and personal ambitions. The dinner ended abruptly with Camilla storming out of the dining room, leaving the remaining family members in stunned silence. Charles sat heavily in his chair, clearly shaken by the confrontation and the realization that his decision had created a significant rift within his own family. The other family members gradually excused themselves, leaving the king alone to contemplate the consequences of his choice and the challenges that lay ahead. In the days following the explosive dinner confrontation, Buckingham Palace became a carefully orchestrated theater of public normalcy, while private chaos reigned behind closed doors. The royal family's press office worked overtime to maintain the appearance that everything was proceeding smoothly, even as staff members whispered about the unprecedented tension between the king and queen consort. Queen Camilla had effectively gone into a state of cold warfare with her husband, barely speaking to him except when absolutely necessary for official functions. She spent most of her time at Clarence House, deliberately avoiding Buckingham Palace and any situations where she might encounter Charles in a casual setting. Her staff found themselves walking on eggshells, as even minor issues seemed to trigger disproportionate reactions from their normally composed boss, the queen consort, began making strategic moves to assert her own importance and relevance within the royal family. She scheduled a series of high-profile public appearances, ensuring that her work would receive significant media coverage during the same period when Catherine's honor was to be announced. Camilla also reached out to her long-standing charitable patronages, arranging special events and initiatives that would showcase her own contributions to public service. Meanwhile, Catherine found herself in an increasingly difficult position. While she was grateful for the king's recognition, she was deeply uncomfortable with the family conflict it had caused. She attempted to reach out to Camilla through intermediaries, hoping to find a way to smooth over the tensions and maintain family harmony. However, her overtures were politely but firmly rebuffed, leaving Catherine feeling responsible for a situation that was largely beyond her control. Prince William was caught between supporting his wife and trying to maintain peace within the family. He understood his stepmother's feelings of being sidelined, but he also believed that Catherine deserved the recognition she was receiving. William found himself serving as an unofficial mediator, trying to communicate between family members who were no longer speaking directly to each other. King Charles was struggling with the realization that his well-intentioned decision had created such a significant family crisis. He had expected some resistance, but nothing approaching the level of anger and betrayal that Camilla had displayed. The king found himself questioning whether the honor was worth the damage it was causing. To his marriage and family relationships, the palace staff were having difficulty managing the complex scheduling and coordination required when senior family members were essentially refusing to work together. Events that would normally involve both the king and queen consort had to be carefully reorganized to avoid conflicts, while maintaining the public appearance of a united royal family. Media speculation about tensions within the royal family began to intensify as sharp-eyed royal correspondents noticed subtle changes in the family's public appearances and interactions. Photos from recent events were analyzed for signs of strain, and reporters began asking more probing questions about family dynamics. During press briefings, the situation became even more complicated when other members of the extended royal family began choosing sides in the conflict. Some relatives supported Camilla's position, feeling that she had been treated unfairly and that established protocols should have been followed. Others backed Catherine and Charles, arguing that merit should be the primary consideration for royal honors and recognition. Security found themselves dealing with an unusual challenge as they tried to coordinate protection for family members who were actively avoiding each other. The normal patterns of royal movement and scheduling had been disrupted, requiring constant adjustments to security arrangements and protocols. As the date for the public announcement of Catherine's honor approached, the pressure on all family members continued to mount. Palace advisors were increasingly concerned about the potential for the family conflict to become public knowledge, which could damage the monarchy's reputation and undermine the positive impact that Catherine's recognition was supposed to create. The Queen consort's closest advisors began developing strategies for how to handle the public announcement and subsequent media coverage. They were determined to ensure that Camilla would not appear diminished or overshadowed by the news, and they worked to schedule competing events and appearances that would showcase her own importance and achievements. Stage was set for a very public test of the royal family's ability to maintain their facade of unity, while dealing with deep personal and political divisions that threatened to undermine the very foundations of their relationships with each other. The morning of the official announcement arrived with unprecedented media attention focused on Buckingham Palace. News outlets from around the world had gathered, sensing that something significant was about to be revealed. The palace press office had promised a major announcement regarding the royal family, and speculation had reached fever pitch among royal correspondents and the general public. Inside the palace, the royal family was preparing for what would be one of their most challenging public appearances in recent memory. Despite the private turmoil of the past week, they would need to present a united front for the cameras and the British people. The stakes could not have been higher, as any sign of discord could overshadow Catherine's honor and damage the monarchy's reputation. Queen Camilla had spent the morning in careful preparation, working with her styling team to ensure she looked absolutely perfect for the public appearance. She had chosen a striking outfit that would command attention and project authority, sending a clear message that she remained a powerful figure within the royal family, despite the recent developments. Her demeanor was composed but noticeably cooler than usual. Catherine, meanwhile, was dealing with a mixture of excitement and anxiety about the announcement. While she was honored by the recognition, she was also deeply aware of the family tensions it had created. She had chosen her outfit carefully, striking a balance between appropriate formality for the occasion and a style that wouldn't appear to be deliberately upstaging other family members. When the time came for the public announcement, the royal family assembled in the throne room for the formal ceremony. King Charles stood at the center, flanked by the immediate family members, while palace officials and invited guests filled the ornate space. The atmosphere was thick with tension that was carefully masked by royal protocol and formal smiles. As Charles began his speech announcing Catherine's new honor and role, the cameras captured every subtle interaction between family members. Royal watchers and body language experts would later analyze these moments frame by frame, looking for signs of the conflict that had been brewing behind the scenes. Camilla's expression remained diplomatically neutral, but those who knew her well could detect the underlying tension in her posture. The ceremony proceeded without any obvious incidents, with each family member playing their part according to royal protocol. Catherine accepted her new honor with grace and appropriate humility, while William beamed with pride beside her. The couple's children, who had been carefully prepared for the event, stood quietly and behaved impeccably throughout the proceedings. Following the formal announcement, the family participated in a brief photo session and answered a few carefully selected questions from the assembled media. The questions focused primarily on Catherine's achievements and future plans, but several reporters attempted to probe for information about family dynamics and decision-making processes. The immediate public reaction to the announcement was overwhelmingly positive, with social media filled with congratulatory messages for Catherine and praise for the king's decision to recognize her contributions. The British public, largely unaware of the family tensions behind the scenes, celebrated what they saw as a well-deserved honor for one of their most beloved royals. However, in the hours and days following the announcement, more perceptive observers began to notice subtle signs that all was not well within the royal family. Photo analyses revealed the physical distance maintained between certain family members, and body language experts commented on the lack of genuine warmth in some interactions. The resolution of the immediate crisis came gradually over the following weeks, as family members slowly began to find ways to coexist, despite their differences. Camilla eventually accepted that Charles's decision could not be reversed, but she also established clearer boundaries about her own role and insisted on being consulted about future major decisions affecting the family hierarchy. Catherine, for her part, made deliberate efforts to show respect for Camilla's position and to avoid any actions that might be perceived as overshadowing the queen consort. She worked quietly behind the scenes to rebuild relationships and ensure that her expanded role complemented rather than competed with other family members' work. The long-term impact of this royal crisis extended far beyond the immediate family conflict. It highlighted the complex dynamics within the modern monarchy and the challenges of balancing tradition with merit-based recognition. While Catherine's honor was ultimately celebrated by the public, the process revealed underlying tensions that would continue to influence royal family relationships for years to come. The incident served as a reminder that even the most well-intentioned decisions can have far-reaching consequences within the intricate world of royal politics and family dynamics.